Actually 729 show today for Smoke and Mirrors. Thank you so much for being here again. This episode, of course, is brought to you by Pomp and also brought to you by Circumstance. Pomp and Circumstance. And now, here's a song. Beat Street. Cross the street, I see you rocking that beat from across the street. Beat Street is a lesson too, because I can't let the street beat you. And now here they are, your invenerable hosts, Carlos, Kareem, Wyndham. It's not how that song goes. It's not how that song goes. What happened is I forgot the lyrics that I studied right before we got here when I said I was gonna do it, and this is not how the show goes. I'm supposed to be smoking with you right now. My apologies. And as ever, while my guest is enjoying what is happening, they can't hear any of these sound effects. So I look like an insane person, and maybe I lied and there's no show at all. This is my favorite part. Welcome once again to Smoke and Mirrors. So great to see you here. Hey, y'all, what is going on? What is going on? From the front, indeed. Thank you, Raven. This week, we have some things happening that are going to be coming up. Of course, on Thursday, August the 20th. That's going to be this Thursday, and as you know on the show, that Thursday is my Friday. I will be here with Dahlia Delu Bell. She is one of my favorite comedians, and we're going to talk about whether or not we're even stand-up comedians anymore, because you just can't go out and do that very much. And then coming up on Monday, the 24th, and this is a special one, kids. So if you are in the group, if you happen to be sitting under the philosopher's tree, I'd like you to go ahead and find this advertisement and share it out there. I will be here with Perla Alvarez Lucio, who works with We Count Oregon. And we're going to be talking about the census and why you should be doing it right now, and why maybe you should have already done it, and if you haven't done it, why you're gonna do it. And I know you hate the idea, but that's okay. Of course you do. You can hate the idea as you're doing it. And Perla, who is an immigrant to this country herself, is going to talk about why that is so fucking important to do. Here's the fun thing about why I'm asking you to share that particular advertisement that you may have seen in the group, and not all over the Facebook as you do our normal advertisements. It's because Facebook decided that I was breaking some community guideline by saying the word immigrant and saying the word census. Evidently, saying those together meant that I was trying to share something that could be seen as a political post. Though the census is meant to be apolitical and not a party-affiliated circumstance, and really just about knowing who's here, so we're able to deliver resources to people. Wouldn't it be nice to live in a world or a country like that instead of this imperialist, colonialist piece of shit? Anyway, I'm going to be here with Perla. That's going to be a lot of fun. And let's see, yesterday, I don't know if you caught the program. If you did, we were talking about how Donald Trump and his cronies are trying to kill your letters from grandma by mugging post office boxes and kidnapping them from their parents and separating families, putting them in cages. Well, it seems that they got a whiff of the idea that this is an unconstitutional thing that you can't do. And so the Postmaster General, who again is an appointee of the hate-filled bag of jizz that we call Captain No Chill, that Captain No Chill's boy got a whiff that he might go to prison or be walked out of his job in handcuffies if he kept it up and decided that maybe he wasn't going to do it, and so they suspended fucking with the post office only until after the election. Now, I don't believe it. I wouldn't dare believe that they're actually going to do that. By those standards, I haven't been under surveillance since 1995, and I promise you that's also not true. Anyway, hello enemies if you're watching. Anyway, today we have something special. Art is meant to disrupt. That's the point, isn't it? Art is meant to disrupt. It is certainly meant to bring folks together. It is certainly meant to build community, but very often it's a tool that we use to build community for those who have no other community. For many of us who are artists, we are artists because we don't have a choice, because nobody is out there helping us see us. But I am a lucky person. I don't know why. I don't know whose life even is this even. I honestly, listen. I don't know why I'm so lucky to get to know so many geniuses. I don't know why. I have stumbled into a circumstance through the COVIDs where not only do I get to sit around and reflect on all of the lives I've lived and the geniuses I've known, as many of us do, but I found a way to connect with them and make them talk to me and have other people listen to it and act like it's a show or something. Sama Mabish. That's pretty impressive in terms of a lucky person, and I consider myself such. I am the lucky person today who gets to talk directly, and you get to listen directly with your ear holes with the artist who created the piece that you are looking at right now. This is a piece that has gotten some national and international acclaim over the last I'd say months. I believe it's about 2 months, 3 months now. Could be 2 minutes or 3 minutes, 2 weeks, 3 years. I can't tell fucking time anymore. But it's certainly been since we have been in the lockdown. And the person who did this is somebody who I've had the very good fortune to know in my own life because I was invited to get to know them in a circumstance that I think had good intentions, and we'll talk about it. And some of what happens if you invite too many boys to the party. We'll be talking about that in terms of the art as well, and what the art means. Cece Carpio is an artist who does work for and of the community that helps us see ourselves. It is work that has touched my heart over the years in community, has touched my heart in galleries where I have seen it as well. And when I see it online in places where I'm like, wait a minute, that looks familiar. I think I might know, is that? And then I look and then I find out and I see in the sub that it was Cece who did it. I'm like, holy shit. I think I know people who people actually know about. My Lord. And I'm glad, because you should know. So, with all of that nonsense, I would like for all of you children to welcome to this here place under the philosopher's tree, my friend Cece Carpio. Cece.
Hey.
How you doing? What's going on, girl?
You know, living the pandemic life.
Yeah,
right here
living
in
pandy.
Oakland.
You're in Oakland. Which side of Oakland are you on? We need to specify. We know the rules.
Side of the lake near the tracks, on East 14th before,
Okay.
and now called International, and 13th.
We don't. I don't know what that. I don't know what you said the second time. What was it? I didn't understand. I heard East 14th, and then you said something.
Now they call it International.
Yeah. What? I can't hear. What? East 14th.
Now they call it International.
Okay. East 14th. Got it. Good.
Yes.
Good. So East 14th. So you're over
Right
in that
there.
area.
That's right. East 14th and Oakland. Yeah, we still have the sun. It's actually a bit of a summer earthquake weather happening here. We've had
Right.
storm and lightning just a day ago. It's getting real. It's getting too real.
Yeah, it got really real. I was hearing all kinds of reports that the Bay Area was feeling quite tropic.
Yes, it's humid. I'm sweating. I'm feeling like I'm in the Philippines right now. Like, I mean, part of me really loves it because I do like humid weather, but it was definitely unexpected, you
Right.
know? And yeah, we had tropical rain, tropical lightning, all sort of things that ain't nobody predicted was going to be happening. And here we are, there's fire up north. We having all sorts of climate over here.
Listen, it's a thing. It's a whole thing. We up here. It's been up in Portland 100 degrees
Wow.
every day this week, and this is our late summer, or as the whites call it, Indian summer. Thank you for that, fuckers. And so it's normally warm, but it's extra toasty. I'm only wearing this to look cool, but it is not helping my own temperature gauge at all, at all.
I heard that.
Right,
Yeah, no,
right.
this is new for us. I'm here sweating. Normally it's a dry summer, and it's too early for our Indian summer per se. We normally get that in October.
Right.
And parts of me is like, I'll take it. It just was not expected, you know?
You think the gentrifiers brought it with them? You think as they made it like white chocolate city that maybe they brought that they brought
I
that
mean,
with
on
them?
top of on top of Rona, on top of all this other gentrification and racism, I mean, everything should be expected right about now. This is mild. This is super mild.
Yeah, it is super wild. So, talk to me, please, if you would. Let's talk about the piece, and then we could talk about how we know each other and whatever, whatever, whatever. I mean, because really,
Right.
as I've told you, as I tell the people, this is the format. There's no format. I have nothing. Uh, but I saw that piece and heard about it through Tracy first when it was happening because she was one of the folks who was there in the photo that got spread around and is the producer here and looking at the photo and seeing it, I had visceral memories of time at Underground Railroad, time in the movement, time in the Bay, and seeing that happening in this moment. What was going on that was the piece for you for this moment to bring forward for us to be blessed with?
I mean, it was all partially synchronicity, but also very intentional. Um, I run with a crew called Trust Your Struggle.
Okay.
Bunch of folks, family, we've been running together for over 15 years, painting the streets in different parts of the world, different cities. And I'm so proud and happy to find this family because essentially we grew up together. I mean, this is now folks are having babies, but we're still painting. We're painting with our babies. Things are happening. And we are a bit different than your other artist collective or graph crew per se, because we do have an intentional stand of what it is that we're creating and what we're creating it for, which is
Okay.
essentially to uplift our communities and to create art that tells our story because no one else would. I mean, I consider myself a visual storyteller, and that's the way I tell stories. That's the way I tell histories. That's the way I reconnect and communicate with my folks and my peoples. And we paint where we can, whether it's the galleries, whether it's on books, whether it's out on the streets. And during this time, we actually, prior to this mass mobile uprising that we witnessed massively 2 months ago, we was in that pandemic and everything's on lockdown, and I have to go into work still because I do disaster work, so I'm out there in the front line. And seeing the streets like totally empty, businesses are closed. Started having a conversation with business owners and other folks like, just like, yo, it's looking kind of grim. We need to add colors up in here. And started talking to other artists and kind of figuring out what that could mean and what that could look like. And as we started talking, we're like, yo, the plywood, they're our perfect canvas. I mean, they're there, they're set up, they're ready for us to paint on. And I think what we had in mind was really trying to figure out what a just recovery can look like, because a lot of these businesses that's been forced to close down are our communities of colors who are struggling to stay home because they ain't got no money, no food to put on the table because they're not making income. And as artists, and really thinking about what it is that we can contribute to our folks, to our community. I mean, one, we're like, all right, let's go add some colors and put some light into this grim. Like, it looked like a haystack was about ready to roll in the street of Oakland. Um, and we wanted to paint messages that kind of really signified, like, we got your back, and what support would you need for folks to really, like, forced to pay attention to what's happening? Because some people are privileged and are lavishly staying at home with everything that they need, but that's not everybody. And the vulnerable communities are those are the folks in the communities that we are part of and that we function with. And these are things that are not new to us. These are topics and subjects that we've been painting about for a long time, but now folks are actually paying attention. So we're like, all right, well, let's add some more. Let's keep talking. Let's keep telling our story. And we was ready. We was ready to go. And at that point, we were gathering our paint, making it happen. And then boom,
Yeah.
George Floyd was executed by the police. I mean, literally within the same day we was going out. So we're like, okay, we have to shift gears and think about, like, how this actually is not coincidental, in so many ways, that all these topics and all the subjects actually fit in together. And let's figure out a way how we can do that, how we can display that, how we can create work that says that, and what message are we actually trying to say, which is, communities of color have been fucked over so many times and for a long time, and beyond it all, we've been resilient, and beyond it all, we have each other's back, and beyond it all, we are going to stand in solidarity to make sure that we don't only survive through this, but we thrive through it all. So that's kind of a brief back history
Yeah.
of that particular piece, but a series of different pieces that we actually created after that. I mean, we kept painting days after. We had folks in Sacramento also painting. We had folks in Los Angeles also painting. So, and I think there's been a great inertia that happened. I mean, we didn't start it, folks was kind of painting, but I think we definitely expanded, some of the visuals and also some of the messaging, and this particular piece was amplified days later, probably a couple days later, when the homegirl Minerva, who is kind of the creator of Roots Healing, which is all about really putting together women of color in our indigenous practice of healing, whether it's through movement, whether it's through earth, whether it's through food, whether it's through community, and had this brilliant idea and called me up like a night before and was like, yo, Cece, I have this thing that I want to do downtown. I was wondering, I'm trying to do it in 14th and Broadway. I was wondering if you could paint some letters. I'm like, yo, I already painted letters over there. And it just happened so perfectly fitted.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll meet you there tomorrow. And when I went over there and fitted, she was already set up in the very place that we painted. She knew exactly what it was.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So when you said you had talked to some other artists about bringing some life, bringing some light into downtown. The way you described it, one, it reminded me of like what it was to be in downtown Oakland like in 1992, right? Which people
Right.
listen. It was a place. It was a place, and on a Saturday, it was exactly as you described, right? Like you could go there any Saturday, or weekend, and the business people was gone. And it was just a ghost town. It was just nothing
Right.
there, right? And so to be in a circumstance where that's what it looks like again, that barren, but boarded up, right? For the fear of course what residents and how residents might react to being locked down, given white supremacist capitalist patriarchy, given the economic exploitation of living in a city, living in a town, living in a country that does not take care of its folks, that there might be some gimme. So and to make that beautiful again by talking to other artists. Who were some of the other artists that you were in conversation with about what kind of direction this would take? And I'm asking that partly because I do know you as an artist, as you described, you've been connected to the movement, you've been connected to movements. This is not new conversation for you, right? This is not something like, yo, I saw what happened to George Floyd, now I'm gonna start letting it really pop. Like you've been in this. So who were some of the artists that you even trusted to begin to have that conversation
Well, my immediate go-to is my crew.
with? Okay.
I mean, we're a compilation of videographers to silk screeners to muralists to children's book illustrators to um, um, text makers. So, I mean, I think everyone kind of already was itching. Prior to that, I'd been in my studio painting. I mean, I'm fortunate enough that my studio is also my kitchen and my living room and the place I live, and I'm able to create here while
Nice.
we were
Nice.
in lockdown. But in so many ways, when I I I started texting folks, my crew, and also other folks that we paint with, such as Eric Spy, who's an old school graph head that has been us for a long time.
My
Uh,
guy, my guy.
yes, folks who still, rocks hard with us.
Hell
And
yes.
Chris Stella, Palestinian artist, Josue Rojas, the Twins murals. I mean, there
Yeah.
is kind of a really tight muralist artist community here in the Bay since
Straight
it's
up.
such a rich culture and practice that we've made communities and this are friends and family that, it wasn't like a big Zoom meeting and then let's talk about what we're going to do, but it was literally a text
Right.
like, yo, we need to go out there. And folks came out and folks came through. But prior to that, I was talking to my crew because I think we've been all itching to be out. I mean, that's what we do. We paint out in public spaces to reclaim public spaces and paint bigger than life images so that be like, yo, we're here. Whether you choose to look at us or to acknowledge us, or to know that we're present, we will
Yeah.
be here and be present, um, and we'll make our mark. So, and that was kind of like 2, 3 months ago, in which no one knew what this pandemic was really about. Like how do you get the Rona? It's like people sneeze. Can we talk? Like we didn't. We were still kind of really figuring out the protocols and our own protocols of what it means to be out there and still doing what we do,
Yeah.
but ensuring that we were safe, our family safe, because a lot of us go back home to our family. Um, so really like figuring out all of that, what that means, and how that actually changes or not change our practice. So we were talking about that, like how do we do this, and how can we do it where everyone's comfortable and feel safe,
Yeah.
and what is it that we want to put out. So we started talking, about what and imagining what a just recovery looked like. Then I said, as we was ready to go off with that, the uprising and mass mobilization and Black Lives Matter movement took over and just said like, fuck it, we're taking over the streets, and definitely wanted to take part in that in ways of supporting and know that we have an intentional stand to defend Black lives as a collective, but also I think as a movement. Like so many folks here, like they folks just showed up. Folks like came hard and showed up. And this is, as visual artists, as street artists, this is the way we know how to contribute, and this is the way we show love. This is how we show radical love to our Black communities and to our communities, which is essentially our friends and our family.
Yeah.
So, um, and also wanting to have our people know where their place in this fight is, and acknowledging that those hands that we painted carry different elements and different and represented different cultures and different backgrounds, or the very folks that was there during the time we were painting. I
Okay.
mean,
Yeah,
we
I
were
have
like
that on the screen for folks
creating
now.
and making it up. Yeah, as we were doing it, like there was a woman who was passing by, and I mean, she literally made us cry, and just like how she felt like she was actually seen for taking it because she herself didn't know how to participate,
Hmm.
and like just being able to see kind of the Mindy and the piece of like parts of her lineage and parts of her family, just like, and to be honest, there's still a lot of work within our peoples going against our own peoples,
Come
right?
on. Come
Like, I
on.
mean, see, so so I think for folks to be able to come and jump in and partake in the different levels and the different entrance in which we're entering this, was a beautiful thing to see,
Yeah.
and having that image up there. I mean, it didn't actually stay up there for too long. Probably stayed up there for like 5 6 days,
Hmm.
the most.
Hmm.
But primarily because the business will be painted on, the plywood covered the door, and they needed to get back in the business. So, and that's a whole different story,
But
and
did
so they
they
needed
though?
to
But
fix
did they
the
though?
door,
But did they though? But did they though?
right?
Who back in business? What you talking about?
But it was hilarious, and it was actually a beautiful thing because the folks who, the foreman who was taking it down, the altar was created, the altar was there, and no one was touching it. He literally called up his supervisor and was like, "Yo, I'm not touching this. There's flowers, there's altar. I'm not taking nothing down."
Ooh,
And he was
fuck
amazing. Like he
yes.
gave his offerings, um, and it so happened that a homegirl knew who he was, and like I got this random phone call. I'm like, I really don't want to do this, but we have to take it down because they need to get back in the business. And I'm like, oh, it's like, I'll drive this plywood to you. How do I preserve this? Like, I mean, and went out of his way
Wow.
to go and do all of that. He's like, was on the phone, was like, I put on a flower. I made sure that it wasn't touched. Like, I done called everybody to make sure it was preserved. And now Oakland Museum has it, and they're
Cool.
preserving it. They're preserving the piece.
I
So
love that.
that
I
was
mean,
also a beautiful additional story.
no, I mean that's the brilliant story, and I think that's part of what's different about the way that you roll, and I've known you to roll, right? And in the ways that we have known each other, it makes me confident that it's part of how your crew rolls in terms of centering the most impacted, but being clear that when we say that in a truly intersectional lens, that who we're talking about the divine feminine, right? We're talking about the enslaved, we're talking about the colonized, right? We're not looking for the opportunities to get your image onto a sneaker. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah,
not
I
about
mean,
like how do we contact Adidas now? Like what you're doing a different thing than a lot of crews. Is it simply the do you feel like the feminine centering and makeup of the crew, or what is it about the politic in particular and the need to be that declarative in placemaking, right? As women, as femmes, in an art that is traditionally seen as very masked, because I can't imagine a circumstance where anything, and I know a lot of crews, I know a lot of family, and I'm not like down talking to anybody. Big up to the TDK crew, all my family, big up, right? And what I know of the circumstances when their pieces are being taken down is the city's workers are like, fuck this shit, easy, done, right? And the problem is, where can we go to paint that somebody's not going to fuck with what we're doing? You're bringing an entirely different energy that whether or not somebody knew who that dude was, that was a dude on a work crew whose job was to take it down. And y'all, just with the energy you put out, stopped that. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's truly, truly amazing. But what does it mean? What has it taken to be able to build a crew that can center that kind of energy and harness that kind of power and bring that into the world?
Well, I think I can only speak for myself because I mean, as a crew, we definitely do hold um, we do hold that philosophy together, but you know, we all also interpret it in different ways. But what we do share beyond the love of the practice of the art making itself is the love for our people. I
Okay.
mean, we're all predominantly working class communities of colors, and that's how we found each other before the art, even. You
Mm.
know, we happen to have the shared love of the craft, but we have known each other because of the community that we function with and our friends and our family, you know, interact in the same space um, of, of, of before we even call this a fight. We were just like, we just live in it. We
Yeah.
just live in it. And I think for us, I mean, for me, to I mean, for me, it's like I paint what I know. A lot
Mm.
of the images and the portraitures that I paint out there, whether it's commissioned or whether it's me just running down the street or whether it's me in the studio, I'm most inspired by the story of our peoples, of everyday people doing magical things. And I think I find so much beauty and inspiration in that. And I paint what I know and the stories I've been told and the experience I've had. So I think for the foreman to see himself reflected in that image where it was just literally a bunch of different hands, you know,
Yeah.
there was no face, there was no eyes, there was no nose, it was just a bunch of hands. But for him to see himself and to see the meaning of it, to get it and to partake in it, um, it just means that we're doing something right, that we did something right, that the imagery. I mean, we painted that like what 5 hours, probably even less, because that was like when the protests started coming and the sun's going down, and at this time it's like the end of the afternoon. So like technically, I mean, there was parts and pieces of it. I'm like, yo, we could have rocked this better, but like at that moment when we were creating it and how it was created,
Yeah.
it was exactly and perfectly the way it needed to be.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm saying, like, I think it's, I mean, like everything else, right? Once we see ourselves reflected, whether it's a piece of art, whether it's actually on the video screen, whether it's in the music that we're hearing, it just resonates in such a different way. And if at the very least our work, my work, can do that, then I think I did my job, and that's
Yeah.
exactly a cultural worker and artist that I've wanted to be. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. No matters. So how did you start painting? When did you start painting?
I've been drawing for a very long time, ever since I could remember. But I think one of the most vivid memory that I have, and why I'm so gravitated to this medium, is I grew up with my great grandmother who
Mm-hmm.
was illiterate, and so it was just me and her. She was my road dog, and I would go to school and I would come back and I'm trying to go and break things down to her and explain things. And I'm not necessarily the most composed person when it comes to words either. But I was like, but I could draw this, and I think it's become one of my earliest form of communication.
Right.
in ways that my great grandmother have taught me so much, but like, she never went to school. So like basic things like what a science of a frog and metamorphosis. I mean, those things she learned through seeing it happen, but not by reading through it, but being able to explain certain little things like that. And then when I came to the United States, and by that time I was 12 years old, I had a really hard time with English, and I still have a hard time with English. And
Listen, everybody have a
so,
hard time with English. English is
right?
garbage.
It's
This is the
not
most fucked
like,
language.
but so in many ways, it was kind of like also it became another form of communication. I mean, there were some things that I couldn't articulate with words, but I was the kid that could draw, and like the cool kids would be like, "Oh, she can draw. Can she do a flyer for that party this weekend?" I'm like, "All right," and it
Okay.
became kind of like my social engagement with folks
Okay.
and people. Um, so it's such a big part of how I navigated this world and how I interact with this world, and and I'm so and I'm very lucky and very fortunate that it's also a craft that I really do love and enjoy, and I find a voice in it.
Yeah.
So, and to have it as an actual profession, to be able to pass it on to my nieces and my nephews, and I taught all age range at one point, and so even as an adult, and even as now as a practicing professional artist, it still is my form of communication to so many different communities and so many different groups. Like I've been in countries where we didn't speak the same language, but we could sit there and draw and kind of have an understanding of where we're coming from, and it's been such a gift.
Yeah. So, for folks who don't get to have this experience, right? And I'm discovering what it means. Uh, uh, Discovering. I've been living what it means in my own life, right? I think working artists each have to carve their own paths and figure out how am I going to do this? What is it going to mean in terms of income, in terms of viability? What is viability? What does that even mean?
Right.
How did you get to a place? When did you get to a place where you were like, "Yo, I'm a professional artist"? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not I make art, like I paint
Yeah.
shit, but no, no, no. I'm a professional artist. This is what I'm doing. Like, what was that transition for you, if there was one?
um I don't know if there's like a specific moment that I could recall. I mean, I knew it was something. It's like as an immigrant beyond, I mean, the Bay Area, but I moved around a lot, and but this practice has been the most consistent thing in my life. Like, even like building community, seeing new friends. I mean, beyond it all, the thread that put it all together and all those different chapters. Like I've always drawn, I've always painted. And so the transition, whether or not, like whether it's going to be like a professional. I mean, and I think it's hard for me to pinpoint the exact time because it wasn't like, oh, I'm doing this because I want this to be like my livelihood kind of thing. It wasn't that type of decision making. It was more like I'm doing this because this is what I do. In some many ways, it's like part of my breath. And it so happened that folks are down to, pay me to do it. I'm like, hell yes, yes.
Yeah.
Girl needs to eat. Um, and and I think just through the years and through the time of creating and making it, because I went to school, I went to college. I actually didn't study art till much later in life, and even then, I was like not even studying painting. Um,
What were you
I
studying?
I studied environmental law.
Okay.
I want a whole different switch. I was doing environmental law primarily because it was the way in which I felt I needed to know that language in order to go back to where I come from as an immigrant indigenous woman from the Philippines, and being able to go back and learn about like the struggle of my people and what is, because they're getting fucked over in so many ways, and like how can I contribute with this privilege of being able to have access to education here. So and that a good chunk of of during school and post graduation, did a lot of environmental work, but throughout all those time I was still drawing and I was still painting. It wasn't like I wasn't doing that.
Right.
It just wasn't necessarily like my primary focus as far as like my livelihood per se. Um, and I think somewhere like mid 20s is the first time I went on an international tour with my crew. We were all in our early 20s, like single and just like, let's travel the world and paint. And we did. I mean, our luggages were like, two change of clothes, and the rest were just like painting supplies, whatever we could fit in there. And totally unorganized, just a bunch of friends wanting to go out and paint. But the folks and the connections that we had, um, were folks that all were part of the movement, because those were our friends, those were our homies. So as I was going through this tour, we were going through this tour, and partially like just painting and partying and painting and partying, but also just because of the people that we were connected with, and and I think it was kind of actually during that time that I realized the power of what we were doing, just in terms of, we were throughout Latin America, and a lot of the folks that we were painting with, didn't really have a window to the world that was happening here in the U.S. and vice versa. But I think that was like even like MySpace time or whatever it was that we were
Top
during
eight,
the
top
time.
eight.
We were just posting like random photos of what the heck we were doing, and folks were giving us so much love, like from dropping some extra funds to just like getting their stories amplified in other networks. Then as we're going through this process, was just like, yo, I mean, we kind of need to be really responsible, because folks are listening and folks are watching. um and and again, as I was saying, like, all of us as individual artists, I mean, that's essentially what got us together, because we're like, oh, I like the way you paint, and essentially it was like, oh, I like the way you paint because you're painting things and images that I understand, and messages and themes that I could connect to. And we just was like, yo, let's paint together. Cool, tight, let's go. And we did, and and it became so much more powerful, because he was like, we were all already part of different communities, but
Yeah.
together, like folks were seeing this, and he was kind of, I mean, at that time, kind of new. I mean, we had mentors like one Alicia and Brett Cook, who had been doing this for
Yes,
a time.
yes.
But yes, but for us at that time, we had an audience of youngins, including ourselves, who literally was learning as we go through the process, and so were we. And as we kept doing it, I mean, we kept on and we stayed together. I mean, that was what, 16 years ago,
Yeah.
and in so many ways, the way we actually explain ourselves when folks ask, "So, what makes you guys different?" And what we actually learned through the process is that we actually are just visual translators of the stories and the messages and the history of all these different communities that we also happen to be part of. Um, and it feels very, not just rewarding, but also grounding to know that we are part of something that is bigger than ourselves, and that what the craft that we have can actually contribute to something bigger than us as individual artists, than us as a crew, but be part of a bigger movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of,
I think it's amazing. I mean, there's something very special I have found about the Bay Area and about artists and folks in the movement and the connection between the two, right? Where if you are going to be a cultural worker, that's a very very different responsibility than if you're just out there to be a artist. You know what I'm saying? That's like you carry so you come on now. You can't be out here fucking around, right? There's some rules to this, and everybody can't be a part of that in the same way. You've done both individually and with your crew some really special things. Um, that for me, it's an honor to be able to help in whatever way this is. I mean, you're helping me, if anything, but to talk about and elevate that platform and to really, hopefully, um, help to continue to inspire folks to understand that they have the wherewithal from wherever they stand to change the world. Right? It's just a matter of accessing and listening to what your ancestors, what your community are calling you to do. Um, yeah, that's really that's amazing. That's deep. Um, we have a mutual friend who has written on the little page, and I'm gonna post it on the thing as well. Kriya, Christina Kriya
Hey,
Gomez, yeah, is
yes,
right. What wants to know?
yes, hey,
What's your
area.
right? Yay, yay. Y'all ain't from there, been there, you don't know. Don't do that. Uh, Wants to know what your favorite piece is that you've created or been a part of creating. I wish I had read that before I asked you that because that's not a fair question. As a fellow artist, I gotta say that is an impossible question to answer, but we've asked it. And so what is your favorite? What is a? Let me switch. I'm gonna flip it up. What is a favorite piece that you have created or are creating?
Oh, it's so hard to tell. I mean, I was kind of on a beast mode since this whole pandemic.
Right?
Like, I was like painting every day just to kind of partially, I mean, a big part, not just partially. A big part of this was to actually keep me sane.
Yeah.
Like, just to make sense of the world we're in now. Because this is
Yep.
some Octavia Butler shit that, we wasn't, we didn't anticipate was coming right away. Or not in this, at least I didn't. Not in this
Octavia,
way.
Octavia told the truth. Listen, I didn't think it was going to be
Right?
like this, but I was talking to somebody today. I like a year ago, I would be sitting at a coffee shop, two buildings down from where I am right now, right, sipping my little quad breve latte, and
Yeah.
telling people you better get you a fancy drink and enjoy it because we don't know how long we're going to be enjoying no fancy drinks. So get the fanciest drink you can because soon it will not be this way. And I said that thinking maybe it was hyperbole. I did not know that Auntie Octavia was telling the truth that way.
I had never doubted her.
Oh,
I just didn't
we.
know when he was coming.
Say it one more time.
I said I never doubted her. I just didn't know when he was coming.
Well, it was the timeline. Yeah, 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 yeah. It
Yeah.
was so fast.
He just like boom, boom, boom. I mean, everything
Oh,
just
we.
like, I mean, and she's this close to actually having seen it. She was this close to actually having seen that all that she's written is actually right here. It's not sci-fi anymore.
I think that that her, that Prince, that Bowie, that our people just dipped because they was like, look, we do know. We've been telling your asses, you're not listening.
Yeah,
I
y'all
taught
figured this
you.
shit out,
What did I say? What did I say?
right?
Did I say the sky was
Right,
all purple and the people were running everywhere, or did I didn't say it?
right, right, right.
Ooh, so that in everything you've been producing, did you find something that was
All right. My favorite piece. I don't know if I have one yet. To be honest, I think I'm constantly seeking. I constantly see my pieces even after I post it on social media or Instagram. I'm like, ooh, I could do that one better.
yeah.
Or ooh, I have this other idea. But um, I mean, I was painting like, a variety of things from like healthcare workers to like my sister came and was like telling me how she's struggling so much, like just being at home with three babies,
Mm.
staff, homeschooling and her
Shout out
work
to
and
everybody
the
home with three
transition
babies.
and
Shout out to
all the things. I'm
everybody
like,
home
oh,
with three
me too,
babies.
you know.
Yeah.
So my inspirations come from all different sources, and they all have their own stories. So it's hard to kind of pinpoint like which one's my favorite, primarily because both technically and story wise, they all kind of hold something very unique and different. And again, I think as an artist, I consider most of my work, if not all of them, still a work in progress
Yeah.
that could consistently be changed and get better. And I mean, I only post on Instagram because I feel like that's what we're supposed to do now, because that's the only way we can communicate now. If we can't see each other, you know, galleries open.
Right. Right.
Um, so, so yeah, that's kind of though. Oh yeah, and recently I've been doing tarot cards.
I was gonna ask you about them cards. You know, I was gonna ask you about that.
Yes. And I actually really resonated with this project in ways that I didn't anticipate, because
Talk
folks,
about it.
including like the homegirls who were at the pictures, were like, "Yo, you should make tarot cards. You should do this." Like, folks have been telling me this for years, and I think I'm just like, I don't know. It's such a sacred thing to do. Not that I'm like a big tarot card person, anyways, but like anything that like you're trying to talk to the spirit, I'm like, ooh, y'all better
Right.
be careful. That shit is like that shit is some like crazy water ground. Like, you know, that thing moves. Like,
Tell the truth.
so, but but there's this amazing artist who kind of come up to me and like had this brilliant idea of getting other artists to come up with a deck about tarot cards in 2020 and what that looks like. And I'm like, I've been painting this since 2 months ago, and and really kind of enjoyed it and really kind of loved it, because once we started painting back on the street, it was just kind of nonstop. I mean, folks from left to right, out of the woodworks, like just hollering, like, "Oh, can you paint this business? Can you paint my business? Can you paint this? Can you paint that?" Which is beautiful and amazing. Definitely want to be able to support, but it was impossible to do all of that.
Yeah.
But we tried. I mean, we painted as much as we can, and you know, prioritize what needed to be prioritized. But I don't think people actually really acknowledge how much of a physical work painting mural is. And for myself, who stand a tall 5 feet, it's like everything is a stretch, and just going up and down the ladder. I mean, you know, I do this presentations with students, and folks are always like, "What would be your advice to young artist who wants to be muralist, who wants to go out there and do it?" And my first advice would always be like, work out. It's a physical job. We always consider, we call ourselves kind of like a high-end construction worker, because
Mm.
it's the same type of workers' comp and insurance that
Hmm.
you need to get in order to do this job. It's very physical.
Well, and the
So,
repetitive stress as well, just from painting, right? Like if you were painting on any surface, you're going to
right,
end up getting some levels of repetitive stress, and then you add to that the scale, right?
right,
And as you
right,
said, the climbing up and down. Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Everything takes longer. I mean, beyond the size of it being like, you know, 4 or 5 times bigger than what you have drawn in the paper, or even that
right.
like 100 times bigger than what you drawn in the paper. It's like you can't see what you're painting when you're in this close to the wall, and it's like 100 bigger times. Like you have to consistently go back and forth.
Get
Um,
back, go back up to the, come
yes,
back up, come back
out the ladders.
down. Did it? Was it
Yes,
right? Is that the right color? That was the
yes,
wrong fill. Yeah,
yes. And, I mean,
yeah.
we joke around, but it's true. It's like this is our gym, and you know, like I've like you know been able to like earn my couple of dieselness in my arms through the years. Of,
Hey,
girl,
hey.
you work out, you do this. I'm like, no, I paint.
Little
You
boulder
know,
shoulder from the paint, little boulder shoulder from the paint.
right? No, this is all penny shoulders, it's not swim shoulders. But no, it is. It's very physical.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, and I joke around about it, but being a small woman, it is almost kind of twice as much work in some
Yeah.
sense. just in terms of reaching those high places, but also in terms of of trying to get up in places that you can't reach, and being creative in ways that is kind of almost semi like, yo, it's just kind of partially suicidal because like this weekend we had to lift it didn't work, and we were putting ladders on top of lifts on top of, I'm just like, I don't know, but like that blue is bugging me, and it's got to get fixed, you know. It was a little bit of insanity and a little bit
Yeah.
of like creativeness of like aerial dancing sometimes that happens with us, like
Right.
um
I mean, some of your most
but
famous artists, some
but
of our
so
most famous artists have lost a limb. You know, it's real talk. But what were you saying? What were you saying?
oh, but back to the tarot cards, what I think part of me was excited about it was like it gave me a chance to go back home and just draw on paper. I mean, I was like got super excited. I went line crazy and just like started drawing lines. I mean, I probably drew 20 additional cards more than like what I was supposed to draw, just because I was just so excited for it and was just giving it out to friends. Like, here it is. So, and that was fun, and I felt like it really resonated to me because, again, I was able to really reflect on what's happening now, currently, and folks and people who I saw was also like there representing, because each card kind of have their own characters. They're kind of like their own little deities, and they tell your fortune or future or past or whatever it is that you ask them to tell you, and but they stand and represent and and it was really fun trying to match the cards with folks in my life or folks that I knew. And and I think that's also like one of the funnest things in the work that I do is when I do paint, portraitures of folks and people and get to really know people and their stories. And some of them are like, intimate relationships of like family and friends or people I know. And some of them are like, I kind of know them, but this is
Yeah.
like a great opening gateway for me to get to know them more. Um, and then the other ones is just like, is is also, the part of like partially telling the things that are happening and going on now, then also partially imagining what it is that we want to happen.
Yeah.
So being in my studio again and just being able to just kind of be in that place of imagining and creating stories or amplifying or rather changing stories up was super fun because sometimes when you're out on the streets, everybody in them almost wants to talk to you, and that's actually one of the best part about painting a mural. But half the time I'm like, yo, I'm trying to go paint. I'm
Yeah.
trying to go finish this up and can't finish it up because you want to engage and you want folks to understand. But there's some folks who they kind of want everything explained rather than actually just like, yo, I mean, the whole purpose of this being in the public space is for everyone to have their own interpretation at some point or another. Um, but it was a nice break, and I think I've acknowledged myself as an artist who like going and creating work in faces, like, and it's actually what keeps me engaged. Like, I love painting mural, but I also like maybe I just want to go do an installation and sculpt something real quick and put woods together and like go and cut wood and stuff. And I like being able to come back and forth in the different mediums that I think actually feeds each other in ways that, there's some artists who's just like, I just paint or I just draw or whatever. But to me, like being able to draw small on paper with pen actually helps me kind of figure out different trick and different ways to like, oh, how could I figure out how to paint this in like a scale that's probably 100 times bigger? Or if I go and play with wood, like how could I paint this three-dimensional imagery that I have in my head if the space is just linear. So yeah, the tarot cards, that was fun. And it was a nice break from the murals, and it was a great way to actually also I think folks, especially in this part of my life, just kind of like automatically points to me as a muralist and always
Hmm.
kind of comes up to me as like, oh, we want this mural, we want this big thing, and that's cute and fun too, and I love it. But it's also kind of just really nice to just sit and draw and
Yeah.
illustrate something.
Yeah, well, seeing the pieces you were doing, or at least the initial ink that you had laid out for us, and shared with folks. I told you then. As soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, I need to know where I can get a deck, and I'll let you know the people who are watching are asking the same question.
Yes,
So when the
they're
time
coming.
comes,
It's coming up real soon. I think the curator is still waiting for the other artists to finish up.
okay,
So they're compiling it together.
okay,
There's going to be a website. It's called
all right,
pandemiccreations.com,
all right,
curated by Adrian Arias.
okay,
And there's 11 artists, all Bay Area artists. I haven't actually seen anyone else's work. So it's going to be a surprise for us all.
all right.
It's gonna be. I'm excited, and they should be coming up fairly soon. At least that's what I was told, but I
Yeah,
have no
well,
control of
I mean,
that.
what do we know? What is fairly soon? What is fairly soon? We're in time soup right now. So
Right,
if it
right.
comes out in the next year and a half to 5 years, you have fulfilled your promise. It's fairly soon for sure.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
listen,
Soon
thank
is
you.
relative.
Yeah, thank you so much for spending some time. This has been
Yes,
incredible.
that was fun.
Yeah. It's getting dark. I see you adjusting. You're like trying to adjust with it. So I'm not gonna keep you hella long. I would love it if we're able to at a different time maybe come back together. I'd still really love to hear about what it is to do this kind of placemaking in male-dominated areas, and what it means to carve out that space, because that to me is the true warrior's work, right? And for folks who do not fit into those dominant hierarchies of what it is to be, or that paradigm and that false binary of what it is to be male and female, you've created so much space for so many people, and would definitely love to have you back if you're willing, if you're able, and get more into that as well.
Yes, most definitely. I realized I didn't touch on it, but it's it's the center of my work. So
We should touch on a little bit. Go ahead, touch on a little bit.
soon enough,
Maybe could.
soon enough, and again, soon is relative.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your work, your energy with the world, with us. And this is the part where I play a magic sound effect of applause that you're not going to hear. Stay right there, though. Stay right there, though. Folks, give it up for Cece Carpio. Y'all, what? What? I am so blessed to be able to have some of the guests that I have. I do hope that you will check out her work on her Instagram. We have put it up on the screen several times. There was a project Instagram where we did CC Carpio Instagram, and we also did the Instagram for the project. I'll put that up one more time as well. Soon is relative. Keep that in mind. Soon come. It's coming. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You don't need cards. You're okay. You're doing okay. You doing okay? How's that banana bread coming? Did you get it? Did you get it moist yet? Did that work out? What's that stuff in the back of your fridge? Are you gonna clean that out? How fucking long has that been there? Has that been there since we've been here? Ugh. I don't know. Can we keep? I think probably shouldn't keep buying like big salad and thinking we're actually gonna eat it. This is too much fruit for one person, right? All right. All right. Well, this has been another episode of Smoke and Mirrors right there in your face, and this is one of the ways you could support it. First and foremost, the thing that you could do that we would love is share it. Share the art. This is Zuckerberg wants us to charge, but you know what we're not going to do? Charge, because this is free. All right. This is a project that keeps me alive, and I get to, as I said, talk to my friends and talk to acquaintances and talk to people I work with and share it with you. And I love it. Please just consider sharing it. If you want to actually go ahead and become a patron, you want to be a real patron of the arts, listen, go ahead and jump on the Patreon. Go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. Smoke and Mirrors CCB. You can become a patron just like all of the people who you will see here. There have been many names added. Many folks have joined us since last time I read this, so here I go. I'm going to read them all. Here we go. Shout out to and thank you to Ruthie, Erica, Amber, Aaron, Seth, Lisa, Kristen, Renice, Michael, Natalie, Juliet, Tarika, Tracy. That was the wrong inflection. That sounded like I was going to say more names. That's all the names. Thank you so much for your help and for becoming patrons. Hope somebody else will if you want to. If you have a guest who you think should be here, you have a question, you have a comment along the lines of something that you'd like read here, maybe a letter to share, an accolade, a complaint, you can send that to smokeandmirrorscb@gmail.com. You can also reach, well, at least my face at IG, El Caballo Negrito. You'll also see some links to the YouTube there. Hey, you're supposed to smash buttons and like things and subscribe to things there. I don't know what I'm supposed to say for that channel. I don't really give a shit about YouTube. Twitter, you can find me as well. That's Caballo Negrito. If you wanted to contribute and did not want to make the commitment, you can drop $5 on it. We appreciate that under the Philosopher's Tree. That can be done at Venmo, at Carlos-Wyndham, at Cash App, at $CK Wyndham, at PayPal, /me.CK Wyndham. This has been an event that has been produced, written, and hosted by myself, Carlos Kareem Wyndham. This has been produced by Tracy Tatamy. One more time, I would like to thank my very special guest, Cece Carpio. If you have the opportunity, please do go back and check out the gram. Check out We Got This. When it does happen and the opportunity arises, get you some of them tarot cards. You know you need tarot cards. You know you're a fucking urban hippie if you're here watching this. Get you a deck. Thank you so much for being here. Do me a favor. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Would you please, for the love of God, listen, Muslims have been telling you this since forever. The whole system of Islam is founded on it. Would you wash your fucking hands? Just wash your hands. If you're going to go outside, which you shouldn't do, I'd like you to stay inside. Would you please, for God's sake, wear a mask? And if you're not going to do that, just go ahead and fuck right off. Okay, I love you very much. I'll be back tomorrow. Okay, I'll see you. Bye-bye.